Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm really happy to see you here and happy to share with you the first iteration of this chapbook, Baladi. Baladi means two things. Baladi is my country and also a descriptor of the country. So I will just go right into poems, but it is an e-chapbook. Um, if it is yours, I hope you enjoy it. If you like it and you would like to I'll be just donating like all tips and ebook stuff to a relief fund. I will post the relief fund's name. I'm still trying to pick one, but I will pick one, or possibly also going to donate to this LGBTQ group in Beirut. It's called Halam, which helps out a lot of people, and also that community is also very, very heavily impacted right now by the economic crisis. That's the whole thing is economic crisis. I'll get more into that later, but first I will share poems with you. I have the WeTransfer link here, and I will just start to read. If there is time at the end, um, if you'd like me to share one, if there's like time of your choice, then I will be happy to do so. But here we go. Our stories start with Kan ya makan. It was or it wasn't that in times of old, where rent was 1/4 or fifth or harebone of your salary for an entire mushroom cloud of your very own. And in these times, you could surely negotiate your salary without risk of being kicked out of your thieves' den. And then it did not cost your arm to pay for your leg, or so we were told. In times of old, you could build a dream home out of a shoebox without it being a diorama school class project. If you went on a quest for your dream come true that you would find, after walking so far and finding gold for geese and trading with fae and battling with kings, that what you were looking for all along was tucked into the sole of your shoe, so they would say. It was or it wasn't that you could live without working yourself to death. The metro rail was skybound and ready to take you all the way there. It was truly beautiful. The rivers were so clean you could see the fish swim and the swayweed floor and let your toes guess how far they were from reaching and stirring up sand. It was or it wasn't that you could surely find your charming sparklehead, and the stronger your love was, the more it would peel at the skin of your family until they tumbled hard-boiled rage into the streets, trade the kingdom for meal peace, trade the hourglass for more time, trade the sheets for sails to Carthage before Rome burned it all to the ground. Resolve it all how? Was it or was it not the tales we told ourselves said all that we needed to know? And this next poem is for my cousins because this happened. I am here to atone for my sins as former president of a country I ran into the ground. They voted and had me sworn in, making promises to govern in earnest. We made our money from clay, built hospitals, arrested thieves for being free until the cops unmasked and came after us all. Town emptied. Before that time, we had held an election to determine state provinces, drew a map, outlined our borders in chalk. No ambassador was elected, no warring broke out between states. Everyone had all they needed until they didn't anymore, until the land ran empty, and they all fled the border for a better life in static and screens. I walked the lay of the land, my country, and all of it was dust. I had failed my people. I did nothing but dream. There had been no long-term sustainable structure for the machination of dreams. Vision shifted from Sphinx to lion to CEO while the eyelids shut out light, except for two merchants who were still making money all alone there, grinding sandstone between blocks until it lost all shape. The measure of our state held in bottle caps before the wind spilled it into the air, to be indiscernible from all the rest. And I just kind of want to share that when I was a kid, uh, there were a lot of us cousins, and we decided to play country, and like we elected a president and a treasurer, and we did the thing. But I feel like there's kind of a metaphor in there somewhere. So yes, these poems that I'm sharing with you today, some are more like in relation to like motherland, and some are in relation to here land, and some are just like identity related things. So this one is for my grandma. I didn't call you because if you knew where I was, I would have felt your tears as you wept. بنت ابني لوحدها في البلد. Because you would never have wanted this for me. You wanted me to be surrounded by the future the way their arms always sought your care. Because I've seen you cry before and felt ashamed. Because I didn't know how to tell you that even as I fumble my attempts at love, I'm still happy لوحدي. Because you are so convinced that you know what will make me happy, and it is not my place to argue with you. Because I can't tell you how I feel, because if I told you how I felt, you would despair. Because you suffered so much already that I can't break your heart by telling you that I found happiness in my own way. And even if it is not real happiness by comparison, it's a start. Because you're convinced that in all your trial and survival, you have found the recipe for happiness, and I need to replicate it to each letter in your name. Because even if I will never fully belong here, I still manage to carve out some small life for myself. Because even if the love turns out to be a means to the children you so desperately want me to have, I still can't. Because I don't know if I could, even if I trusted myself to do it. Because I may never be able to afford the dreams you once did, because I am a disgrace to being your namesake and that you couldn't afford it, but found a way anyway, because your other namesake did it better, because the ocean eats my questions so that I won't need to ask, because there are some things we would never admit to ourselves, because you believe that you were better off with your mother deciding for you, and I still think you would have been a journalist to reckon with the way you raised these kids. Because at 16, we both wanted to be journalists, but life had different ideas for us. Because I have so many things to tell you, but it's never the answer you are looking for, so I eat my words. So they taste like salt. So they taste like waiting. So they taste like poison. So I will eat them so that you will never have to. So I wish we could be closer. So we have only spoken in passing. So the closest I am to you is in name. So I have let you down. So I try to make it up to you. So I've let myself down because I could never make it up to you. So I should journey to you. So I am afraid to leave. So I am afraid to see you older. So you love me because I am my father's daughter. So I love you because your love is more vast than mine could ever hope to encompass. So you know me through your conversations with my father, but when I ask about you, he says that you are fine, so we have circumnavigated disaster. So I do not know if we still know each other because it's been a while since I lived with Mama and Baba, so we have accumulated several years of drought. So we are both storytellers, and I see it in you the handful of times we would sit together. So I am jealous of my family for having more time with you than I ever did, and for having the luxury of obligation. So I should visit, so I haven't visited already. It's been too long since I've seen you, so life is passing us by. Did you know that it's not the same ocean holding us together now? And now I am two oceans apart from you. Did you know a place has let me reside in it, which looks like home I am from and home I came from, found happiness together? Yet it's my fear of coming home that's holding me back. It's the agony of being stranger and stranger the longer I stay away. It's the fear of being stretched so far I lose myself completely. So you never wanted us to be here for this long, and it wasn't supposed to be decades of waiting for our return. So compared to you, Penelope was eating plaster. So you have sacrificed your entire life to be surrounded by your immense family, for your family to split itself to corners of the globe because life cannot stand here anymore because immigrants are professionals in distance loving and distance phone calls. And so you wonder why I haven't called you, and I wonder why I haven't called you, and I wonder at families who see their matriarchs all the time and how before and bow before their majesty. And I wonder if their matriarchs carried their entire families on their backs the way you did, not having anyone and only each other. And you want me to carry the mantle, but I am not the earth to hold the ocean on her back the way you have. And you're right, and that the way I inherited this body was to know that all of us who came from you are immeasurably beautiful and irreplaceable. That I have seen you shattered in their joy, but that I can never come close enough to be of you as you already are. So, all I need to do now is pick up the phone and call you without my lungs filling with sand. I want to share with you this poem. It's, well, electricity over in Beirut is not like electricity here. The company manages it so it goes out certain times of the day for like 6 hours or so, and I think it gets extended. But yeah, let me share with you about that. When the electricity goes out, you go to where the candles are or see if there is still one there on the floor by the bed. You light it with a match or the gas lighter. If it is a new candle or if it has nothing attached, you let enough wax liquefy so that it can be poured drop by drop onto a dish, or something that will hold it as it slowly melts to a stub, to nothing. When we were little, we used to play with the wax while it was still warm and shapeable into something. There was just a moment of, everyone unable to see while we looked for ways of seeing. Nothing ever caught fire in a room full of 26 kids. We were taught to handle it carefully. Or we learned from passing our fingers through the flames if we weren't quite quick enough that we wouldn't want to let the same thing happen to our house. Now, when the electricity goes out, if you are lucky, you have a generator. You start to calculate how much more you will need to make it last. If it goes out more than it used to and you are left with less time to call, to check in, to conduct your business, if you are lucky, you sell your generator to someone willing to buy it. If you are lucky, you make do with what you have and find a way for it to be enough. Get used to something, and when it is taken away and you are scrambling, if you are lucky, you arrange all affairs before the lights go out. If you are lucky, maybe you want to sit in the dark, even if you didn't ask for this. But did you know, no one takes excuses anymore. They expect you to be ready at the touch of a button. If you are lucky, you've charged your phone enough before the lights went out. If you are lucky to still have your phone and make calls you need. If you are lucky to have anything left to buy enough candles so that you can reshape the wax spilled and then make another candle. If you are lucky to think of the idea. If you are lucky to still think about having anything other than what you absolutely need. If you are lucky to find extra change at the bottom of the drawer. If you are lucky to get out to the store while it is still daylight and you take the right bus. That there is not someone asking you to empty your pockets. I have a gun, now do it. Now, if you know someone with a generator that you can borrow time to send out a job posting if you are lucky enough, to know someone who knows someone, if you're lucky enough to find the last coffee can of powdered milk and stick it into your cart before someone sees, or make what you have last enough for the month, thin it out a little more each day to see what you can make last. If you are lucky enough to leave and never have to worry, if you are lucky enough to be guilty that you can't do anything and the rest of your milk spoils in the refrigerator because you keep trying to make it last, and then sigh at the inconvenience if you are lucky enough to have space in the day to think about it. If you're lucky enough that the electricity going out can be but a memory, that you have one less worry while you are also trying to survive. If you are that lucky, you might as well be made of wax. And when the electricity goes out, burn. So, thanks. I have one or two more that I was intending to share today. There's more in the chapbook, but this one is partially me getting angry at stuff. Well, hey, aren't we all angry at stuff? Raise your hands if you're angry at stuff. Let's give it up for being angry at stuff. Like shit. Yeah, so بصراحة يا قلبي, in all honesty, my heart, بصراحة يا قلبي, no one wants بلدهم to be seen as a poster child for asking. I read that when Katrina hit, the Messiah came together to give us 14 cows. 14 of all one would need to survive, 14 of the center of everything, and cows require everything to be the center of everything, are not wheat. Brazil offered planes full of everything we needed because they know what is needed when this disaster happens. They knew that, and Cuba sent us blankets to warm with, and then our government turned it away, said no thanks, and sent the planes and the blankets back. Let people starve and drown soggy in the waters of home. Let Zaytuna man stay back and help his neighbors after moving here from Swana. Ended up waiting time in a jail cell after searching on boats for those left stranded because he was not supposed to be helping. Said, by not helping, that New Orleans deserved this and they were too proud to accept help for our own who needed it the most. When people ask me where I am from and I say my family comes from Lebanon, after the indirect route, after Michigan, after no, really, where are you from really? More often it's, oh no, car bombs and camels, ma ajmalak for asking. One person grew ecstatic about his life-changing stay in Byblos. One person her journey in Beirut, and one person sighing, oh, I hope to go there one day. I stared. You want to do what now? Everyone thinks my family lives in a trash dump, that it's bare bones minimum, that people don't know English or barely have internet. Everyone thinks it's so backwoods, people don't know how anyone survived with any shred of intellect, as if the two were relatable, like I'm lucky and survived, like the poster child of avoiding oppression. It's like the French are somehow right about us, indirectly. The concept of Lebanon's beauty and Beirut's modernity would be so foreign to us, even though they once called it the Paris of the Middle East, as if to signify that this is splendor in its finest, sophistication by association, instead of death and destruction, bodies buried in rubble, a city remaking itself time and time again, going deeper in the red, stealing from the pockets of those who have the least. But look at all this prestige. Prestige does not accept help. Prestige Prestige ignores everyone who needs it. Prestige pretends everyone is fine. Prestige says, look, we are building another high-rise complex mega mall supermart for profit, and we will spend $70,000 to import a specific olive tree because its branches and trunk are so gnarled and rooted it would fit our courtyard rooftop garden aesthetic perfectly. And more people will shop here. Meanwhile, refugees beg for money on the street because the government cannot give them enough to get started. Meanwhile, no one will hire you if you don't have a place of residence for the application. Meanwhile, no one will hire you if your accent isn't Lebanese. Meanwhile, if you are Lebanese, you need connections to get in anywhere. And if you get a job, they don't pay you enough. Meanwhile, find a way to enjoy these things somehow, only for the prestige of it. Prestige exists independent of family. Prestige does not consider or care for or realize the existence of the majority of everyone who cannot afford the luxury of the concept of prestige. Prestige is so important that it is better to pretend that you are Paris even when you are not Paris. بصراحة يا قلبي, in these regards, America and Paris have more in common than they know. بصراحة, when seen this way, Lebanon is more American than Americans know. And when Americans look at Lebanon in disgust, they need to only hold up the myriad similarities and know that it is better to be proud and exchange help in private than to receive it too openly, because it is still shameful to receive help, because we would rather not expose our wounds even when we are still hurting. بصراحة يا قلبي. No one even knows where to start, and all the ones making the political decisions forget about those who need it most, the forgotten at the bottom, who don't deserve to die for your sins. When I think about the state of things, I remember my old job. There was always some kind of problem, and no one was ever really happy there. They never paid you enough, called you family, and expected you to be always happy to give more without complaints and without more pay. Your gratitude is that you still work. After a point, you are paying them to work there. It is not enough to roof your bed, feed all of your stomachs, always left hungry, but there is no time to think about this when you are busy trying to earn something. When I think about the state of things, I remember this job. They wanted us working hard for all the honey we never got to taste. The thing is, there were more of us than them, but there was always something wrong. People were always getting into trouble and blaming it on others. There wasn't a day without the Civil War breaking out, without people taking sides, ramping up their arms war of information, and playing nice to fight later. I wanted to know how it was possible to still make so much honey while it all broke out of bounds. Now the bees were working harder than ever. The hive became a sweatshop. The back was overflowing with honey. But in front, the officials said that times were bad. There was so much more work to be done. If we had all wanted to, we could have worked together, overthrown the hive, and taken what we were owed back for ourselves. But we were too busy being busy for bees that knew that workers are made by the dozens. When I think about the state of things, I remember this job. They had us fight each other so we wouldn't fight back. Imagine if we had.